Hey there, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to look at one of the biggest problems SaaS technology product companies face when starting their customer education journey, and that is coming up with a way to structure a program in a way that's easy to manage, in a way that scales with your product, software, service, and in a way that can be easily refreshed and maintained. And that is key because a lot of clients will build amazing, really sophisticated training solutions, but maintaining that for the long term and maintaining that as your product suite scales and as your feature set scales becomes a real challenge and obstacle. And so I just want to show you a quick process. It's kind of 3 steps really. Process in how we think about product training and sales training and support training and all those things, how we take product teams through the process of mapping out their training program, and then how that can quickly scale as it starts to work. So the beautiful part about this strategy is that it allows you to get started in baby steps, kind of small incremental steps, but then once you realize that the recipe's working with your audience, with your customers, with your partners, you can kind of add fuel to that fire and really start to scale. So let's jump in here. We're going to try a new format. I'm going to try to whiteboard this one together here. So also, if you don't know me, my name is Matt Tidwell. I'm the founder of ThinkThru. We're an agency that helps brands build, launch, and execute amazing customer training that customers love. And so my mission is to help reduce the overwhelm of launching great customer education. And I know the power that education has, the magic that education unlocks for brands. I've worked with SaaS brands, I've worked with consulting companies, I've worked with nonprofits and all sorts of folks to really help them use education to scale their business, to scale the impact of their mission and their organization, and to really make the world a little bit better place for everybody around them. And so whether you're looking to make millions in training or you're looking to scale your mission, hopefully this video today helps you do that in just a quick 3-step process. So today we're going to look at this in the lens of a product company. There's a couple of different ways you could slice this. I will probably make more videos if this one is helpful about how to think about this in different ways. But there's really 3 things that you want to think about. First, if I'm a product company or a SaaS software company, I need to think about the features. This is the easiest place to start. Let's look at features. So we're going to think about features. And what's great is if I am now charged with customer education training, I probably have somewhere to start. Features is a really kind of foundational piece of a product or a SaaS company, and there's likely documentation about these products and features. There's likely all sorts of things. So I'm going to start with features. Then I'm going to move to goals. Right? So goals. And what's the difference between a feature and a goal? A goal is a particular task or accomplishment with a product or service, right? So writing with this pen on this computer, my goal is to learn how to use this touch interface or something. Or my goal is to configure a microphone for optimal audio. Or my goal is to set up a camera in a particular way or something like that. Or my goal is to save a document. Or my goal is to update an invoice. So goals are specific actions and objectives within your product or service. And then lastly, kind of the third piece of this recipe is going to be personas. Personas. And personas are, you could interchange this with role. So you could think of personas and roles as very, very similar. And in this use case, essentially they are overlapping in that way. So this doesn't seem very magical. What's the point here? So the point is this. What we can do in thinking about launching a program is we can start and go left to right here. So we can make a list of all of our features and even look at documentation portals and things like that. And then we can say, what are the particular goals of our software? Do we help create invoices? Is adding a customer to an invoice something we need to do? Is applying a credit something we need to do? Do we build databases or charts or graphs? Is mapping data to that widget something that someone needs to know how to do? What are those things? So we can make a list of features, and then we can think about those key goals that folks will have. So we want to say, these are the goals that people have when they use our product. If I'm QuickBooks, it is I want to create a new customer and enter customer details there. And then another goal is I want to create a new invoice for that customer. And then I want to schedule a follow-up email for that invoice through QuickBooks. And then I want to apply a balance for that. So it's kind of the steps. It's not the feature, but it's the steps, or it's the main actions that we're going to take. So here's what we do. We take the feature and then we start to group these and map them toward this specific goal that they have, right? So this might take care of these first three, and then let me just change up colors. Then we've got this goal here. Ooh, that's cool. A little rainbow action there. That's fun. So we start to map them here. So now we've got our feature set, like, these buttons and tabs help customers get to these goals. And we're gonna then take these goals and map them to the role, to the persona, to the person, to the title. And so if we go back to that QuickBooks example, just because it's accounting software and it's kind of top of mind right now because I have an abundance of admin work to get done, is now I'm going to take these goals and I'm going to put this in particular personas. So I'm just going to draw some little circles here. So these are different people, and perhaps this goal applies to this persona, and this goal applies to this persona and also this persona, right? So we can start to think about who does these things. Is that a role? Is that a permission set? Is that a job title? Like, who's on the other end of that screen? And we can start to map that out. So here's what's cool. We have a list of features that we've grouped together in goals that we've then assigned to personas. We have an amazing framework to build customer training. Because now what we can do is say, let's produce content at the feature level. So I wish I had more colors. Colors would be awesome here. I don't. Let's just jump in. Let's just jump back here. So I can now say, if I'm a software company, I want to make videos for each feature. Right? So really short, potentially, or it could be longer, but I want a really focused topic video on features. Then we're going to organize these feature videos into specific goals, right? So we're just going to follow this here. And in a course, this is either considered a module, like sending invoices. That might be a great module for a QuickBooks course, right? Like sending invoices to customers. And then we're going to walk through the different features and things. With those goals, now that I know what they want to do, I can kind of measure, if they watch this content, if they use, a sandbox environment, or they have their screen open and they're going through it too, can we get them to a point where they can achieve that goal, right? So we can start to measure, are our customers successful in achieving these goals, because we've removed the idea of like we need them to know the feature, and we've moved them toward we need them to complete a task or goal. And then again, obviously mirroring the top part of the whiteboard, we can then take these modules and we can group them together into courses, right? And that is the goal here. And so now this equals a course, this equals a module, and these are our lessons, if we think about it that way. Right, so you probably heard that terminology, like, a lesson, a module, a course, a chapter, all that stuff. So we're kind of going small to large there. Now, what's amazing about this framework is if you start the other way, if you said, we need to make administrator training, or we need to make, super user training or something like that, and you go the other way on this chart, what you're going to find is that you will start saying, what all do we need these people to do? And you're going to go the other way. You're going to make goals. Like, we need admins to do this and to do this and to do this and to do this. And you're going to make a list of goals. And then someone's going to have to say, okay, well, what features are those? And they're going to have to go back and do that. So either way, you're going to have to do this from one side or the other. But what often happens, and what's easy to do, and I've done it on way too many projects when I first started, is you build the content in a particular lane. Like this is admin training. And so you're speaking to admins, you're using very admin terms and those sorts of things, or you're speaking to users and you're using very like user-friendly terms or whatever that is. But you go down a lane really far, and then when you look back and you're like, oh, we need this other thing, you've kind of already gone so far in one direction that you're gonna have to readapt everything. You're gonna have to like, oh, we need to re-record that. We need to retape that. We need to write that, but with different tone of voice, and we need different imagery. You're going to go through that whole exercise kind of undoing and adapting. And then what happens is you end up with like different tracks, different lanes, right? Where you have where you have products and training that have very specific tones of voice, like our admin training and our user training, and our guest member, I can't spell, guest training, all those things. And they're very, very specific. And then the day will come when your training is really, really successful and you'll need to refresh. And you'll say, we need to update this one widget because our product team just released a whole new suite of those widgets. And now you're going to go, where is that widget in all of these certifications? Like, how many different times do we talk about that widget? And who's using that feature? And like, how much of an update? How do we re-script it? How do we all the things. So if we start the other direction and we produce and write and script and think at the feature level, and it's just kind of a mindset shift, think at the feature level, we can really start there, create a nice index of here's everything we're going to make. Then we can group that into a goal, say here's all the things we help customers achieve in our training, and then we can attach those goals to personas and then really have a focused program. The final step of this is if you're adding certifications, right? If you're adding, certified users, certified admins, certified this, certified that into your catalog, into your program, the final piece here is, and this is a big unlock, it took a while for me to really understand it and to see it work on client projects, but is you no longer have to give an exam tied to a particular track. And here's what I mean by that, right? Is if we started here and said, I need an admin certification, and we wrote, all the content, and we made the question bank, and we now have an exam, and boom, we have a certification program. Now, I have a great program. That scales, we make 50 different versions of it. I've now made an exam like per track. I have a little test here per track. And that can get confusing to maintain because you'll have different versions of different questions. You might have the same feature with different questions and different things. It's a lot to manage. But if we go the other direction, you can start again at the features and have questions for specific features. You can then take those questions and use them as knowledge checks in your modules. And then that collection of knowledge checks then becomes the exams for your courses. And if you want to use exams for your certification, folks can go through any combination of lessons and things, any combination of goals or things, but you can just test them only on the goals. So if I know that goal number 1 and goal number 3 and goal number 5 are really important for admins, I can test them on those goals only. And that becomes the basis for my admin certification. So is this rocket science? Is it super complicated? No. The goal is that it should be very, very simple. But when you first start a program, I've done this so many times and I've done it the wrong way. And I wanted to keep you from making the same mistakes that I have. And that is, it's very tempting to start with the personas and think about the users. And in fact, that's a great idea when you are planning and thinking about how to make people successful and what will they do. Will they take it online? Will they take it virtual live? Will they do these other things? It's a really great framework and perspective to keep. But when it comes time to, we need to write, film, produce, design, script, upload, manage, things like that, I strongly recommend, just in my observation, having done these projects, that it's really, really helpful to actually not start at the person level and instead now go back to our solution. What is our tool? What is our software? What does our product do? What are all those features? And then what's the goal of each of those features? Is it creating new tasks in our project management software? Is it creating invoices in our accounting software? Is it, launching a rocket ship? Like, I don't know what it is, right? But is it any of those things? And then who would do that? And then now think about who's going to do those goals. So starting with the features, and then moving to the people, building the features, grouping the features, and then teaching those features through the goals and the courses. And so hopefully this was helpful. I did my best. This is kind of an off-the-cuff sort of walkthrough, but I just got off of a client phone call, and I thought this was helpful. We actually went through this on the call and we're thinking about certifications and micro-learning and all the stuff, and this seems to be a pretty good unlock. So if this is helpful, leave me a comment below. I'd love to know. If you have a different way of doing it or have other questions, please share, because this is by no means the only way to do this thing. This is just one of many, and I think it's a really sustainable, friendly way to approach the topic. So again, I'm Matt Tidwell. I hope this has been helpful. If you're at all interested in designing customer-facing training or product certifications or any of that sort of stuff, I think you're on the right path. I think education is a huge unlock for brands, and it's really just a hidden superpower that so many teams have. And my mission is just to help you remove the overwhelm and help you to produce great training and certification that changes lives, that scales businesses, and that increases customer success. So anyway, my name is Matt Tidwell, founder of ThinkThru. Check us out at thinkthru.co. That's ThinkThru.co. And I'll see you in the next video. See ya.